Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I'm Jackie, and it is time for another literary rambling. So I actually have a 4-day weekend starting tomorrow through Tuesday. So that's gonna be awesome. And then I also have Halloween off, and the day before Halloween off. So that's gonna be awesome too. So I feel like with Halloween, that's a holiday where I could potentially have off because I feel like it's a holiday. Yeah, people will go to the store to get, their Halloween candy, but it's not like Thanksgiving or Christmas where you're buying a whole bunch of food for a bunch of people. I mean, granted, yeah, Halloween parties happen, but I feel like it's the lightest as far as grocery shopping. I mean, you never know, but anyway, although I'm so glad I'm not at one of those stores like the Halloween store. I don't know if they have a Halloween store around here, but they had one back in Maryland, and I would not want to work there this time of year. But anyway, so as you can see on the thumbnail, I have read as long as it shows up on the thumbnail I've read um 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've read 6 books so far, and I might squeeze in a couple more. I might read Sherlock Holmes Volume 1. Of course, not all of it, but some of the stories, like A Study in Scarlet, and then maybe one of the short stories, just to squeeze it in there. Or I might, read something else. I don't know. Can't remember what else. But I did get back into reading, well, if I can get Oliver Twist, because I'm rereading that one, if I can get that one read by the end of this month, then maybe that one would count. Or like I said, I might read something new and read Sherlock Holmes. And I did get back into, I read a tiny bit of Bleak House, which I have right here. But I am not going to get that done because we only have like a little over a week left in the month, so I'm not going to get it done by the end of the month. But I could potentially get Sherlock Holmes short stories, at least some of them, or at least A Study in Scarlet Red. And I need to finish one of these because I've had this for so long and I haven't read any of. I've opened it a couple times and read a little bit. But apparently last time I just stopped. I read the first chapter of Study in Scarlet and did not read and stopped at the second chapter and have not continued it since. Which was I don't know how long ago. I don't remember when I reread that first chapter again. And I'm also in the middle of Dracula as well. But let's see. I did include some at least one spooky book and one that is kind of more of a mystery. And yeah, there are some scary aspects, but it's not scary as in boo, scary or anything like that. It's more like there's crazy religious zealots involved, and their lives are in danger, kind of story. So the first thing I started my month with was Jekyll and Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. I do want to give Treasure Island another shot. The other major work by him that, because this one I was kind of disappointed by, and sometimes I feel like their other works might be more interesting to you. Now this of course includes some of his other stories, other strange tales. Oh, maybe that's why I could not find this edition on Goodreads. Maybe that's why, because I said stories instead of tales. I need to look for the word tales. I need to type in the word in other strange tales instead of stories. That might be why I couldn't find this particular edition. It's so funny how one little mishap can, That's my only issue with Goodreads is that you have to get, if you want to get the right number of pages so you can, keep a status of how much you're reading, you have to get the exact edition to get the exact number of pages, because each edition has a different number of pages, because it depends on the printing and how many words you can get on a page. And But yeah, so I'll have to type in other strange tales. Hopefully, I'll actually come up with this particular one because I love these editions and I want to show them off. So like I said, I was kind of disappointed. I think that I might like Treasure Island better, which, although I have read it and I DNF'd it, but I feel like I didn't give it a fair shot, so that's why I'm, feeling like I might like it better even though I've already read it. But what disappointed me about this is that we barely spent any time with Jekyll and Hyde. We mostly were in the head of the people that were observing them, like Dr. Jekyll's lawyer and friend, and the butler and his butler, and then another guy, a journalist or something. I can't remember. And they're just observing these guys, and they interact with Hyde maybe once or twice, and they're all concerned for him, but we barely spending time with Jekyll and Hyde, and that's what I was expecting, that we would be with Jekyll and Hyde, and I think it would be so much more interesting if it was from Dr. Jekyll's perspective, and, Hyde's perspective. I think that would make it so much more interesting instead of, like, outsiders looking in and freaking out over this. Because we see that all the time in stories, like in horror stories, where the person observing the monster, we need more stories where we're getting, well, actually we do. I think we get that a lot more now. I mean, that's why we have those vampires that are, they're so tortured and broody, and they're actually good guys. They just need this, they just have to drink your blood to survive, they're just misunderstood, Or you have characters like Rumpelstiltskin, the Once Upon a Time version of him, where it's debatable apparently if he's good or bad, and then, we have, Loki has so much more of a role, and, well, he probably had a big role in the original comics, but anyway, like, the characters, now we get a more interesting perspective from these types of people. And also I was disappointed, it was too short, in my opinion. I was expecting to be a little longer. And like I said when I first started talking about this, I remember, I think at one of our high schools, this was on the reading list to read Jekyll and Hyde, and I remember one of my best friends at the time reading this book. You're not supposed to touch your face, and of course, my nose constantly is itching. It's like irritated. But anyway, I have debated about keeping this, but I looked at the, on Goodreads at the other stories that are in this collection, and I'm gonna read them. Like, one of them is The Body Snatcher, and it's a guy's grave robbing, I think. And then The Bottle Imp, I think that's the one where the guy is set in, like, I can't remember where it is. Like Hawaii, I think? And he comes across the lamp, and it's kind of like a genie type thing, or a djinn type situation. But the only way you're gonna, and of course he can make these wishes, but there's consequences to the wishes, and that the only way you're gonna get rid of the bottle is if you give it to someone for less the price than what you paid for originally. Now, I obviously have not read it, but that's what, when I looked at Goodreads and people's reviews, because when I'm uncertain about a book, I read the people's reviews. And then, I don't remember what the other ones were. I only remember The Body Snatcher and The Bottle Imp. And the other ones do sound really interesting. So, and that will make up, and if I like those, then it will make up for Jekyll and Hyde being not that great, being a bit of a disappointment. Like, especially The Bottle Imp, that's gonna be really interesting, because I always like the whole genie in a bottle, and no pun intended, and the whole idea of that there's always a price, there's always consequences to every choice you make, and wishes are not so easily, I mean, that wishes are not so easily granted. Like, they did kind of Fighting for the Dark episode, the newer, not the most recent, but when they brought it back in the early 2000s with Gary's younger brother Tucker heading the group, and one of Gary's stories was where this kid, who's actually played by Jay Baruchel, is given a magic box or whatever, and there's a genie inside, and it's kind of the same idea of like he makes a wish, but the genie kind of tricks him, and he accidentally says it, but he didn't mean it. That was a good episode. I should go through some of those because some of those episodes were not that bad. I mean, some of them were kind of interesting. Some of them had been a disappointment, but some of them were actually kind of. My nose keeps itching. I'm not supposed to touch my face but my nose keeps itching, and it doesn't satisfy me to do the whole rabbit nose twitch thing. I need to actually scratch it. I mean, I just took a shower. Don't worry, you guys. I just took a shower, so my hands should be clean. But anyway, so yeah, I'm going to. This is the bookmark that Larissa made me years ago that I'm using for it. I thought that was really cool. I was just telling my mom I would love to get into the stamps thing we used to do. We used to put stamps, and then we would make things like bookmarks and stuff. And I remember enjoying that, so I'd like to do that again. And I know they also kind of touch on the djinn of the djinn, which is in Supernatural, and then. Of course, there's the famous, Aladdin story. But that one, I feel like there wasn't consequences in the sense of the wishes Aladdin was making, except for. Okay, so the next book, like I said, I also wanted to read stuff that wasn't Victorian literature because it is the spooky season originally, so, I read The Dark Monk, which is not actually scary, or at least not scary in a monster's gonna get ya kind of way. It's scary as in there's some crazy religious people out there. This is the second book in the Hangman's Daughter trilogy, or not trilogy, series, because it's not a trilogy actually, and I think I don't know, I might give The Beggar King a shot and go ahead and read it, but I did take it off my shelf as one of those series that I don't know if I'm going to continue with it. Because it's fun, but anyway, it's basically the first book is basically about Jacob Kussel. I don't know if I'm saying it right. He is the hangman of the village of Schongau. I don't know if I'm saying it right. And everyone's kind of afraid of him, and there's a lot of superstitions around him, but he's also. But he also has these herbal remedies and stuff to help people in ways that the town doctor can't. And the first book, he gets embroiled with a mystery of the midwife of the village gets accused of witchcraft when a kid shows up dead, and it looks like he has a witch's mark on him. So she gets thrown in prison, and Jacob is the one that has to interrogate her and use torture on her to get her to confess. And it's all about, and he, along with the town doctor's son Simon and his own daughter, are the title character. Magdalena must investigate to see if she really is if she really is a witch or not, and prove that she's innocent. So the second book, a monk gets poisoned after he accidentally eats some donuts with poison in them. And they are trying to figure out, and Simon is called to the scene to check out the body, and he finds out the guy is dead. And he, along with Jacob and Magdalena, work together with the sister of the priest who arrives after receiving a message from her brother beforehand to solve who murdered him. And it ends up being this big thing. Because it's not just a typical murder. There's actually the Knights Templar is involved, and they're trying to protect the secret of the Knights Templar, and there's like this treasure, this missing treasure, and Simon, along with the priest's sister, are going to find it. Decide to go on a search to find it, and there is some extra drama because Simon is in love with the hangman's daughter Magdalena, but because she's the hangman's daughter, they're like, oh, you can't get married, and you must marry someone respectable, and she must marry someone in the family, another hangman, because it's only proper, and so there's that little subplot that will probably go throughout the series until they get married, if and when they do. I'm pretty sure that they do, because I did read a little bit of, I think, the fourth or fifth book, not realizing it was part of a series. I did enjoy the reference to the whole Knights Templar storyline. I've kind of always been intrigued with that whole conspiracy and everything. I don't know if it's real, if the Knights Templar really existed or not. It would be cool if they did, but I don't know if they did or didn't. And it's also kind of fun, and it kind of reminds me of the Da Vinci Code, but it's historical and it's set in Germany. I don't know how many books are in the series, and like I said, I might read the third book, and then whether I do or don't, I'm gonna get if I do, after I read, I'll get rid of the trilogy that I have. It's not a trilogy. I'll get rid of the 3 books that I already have, or at least they're already in the donation pile. But I might still read The Beggar King. I don't know. And then if I do decide to continue with the rest of the series, once I start using the library again, I'll get it from there. I promise I just realized that the library only opens 3 days a week, and my schedule is all over the place. Sometimes I'm working on the days that it's open, and even if I get home in a decent hour, if I get home in late afternoon, the library and the bookshop closes at 2 now. It's 10 to 2 are their new hours. So, because this pandemic, they don't want people out too late. But anyway, yeah, it's fun. I mean, I don't hate it. I have a good time with it. It's just it is a little repetitive at times. And a lot of people, and a lot of the criticisms that Beggar King got were, about the drama and everything, and the people are very out of character, and just not everybody loved the Beggar King. But anyway, it's a fun series. If you like historical mysteries, you might, especially ones that kind of have to deal with history and all these crazy theories about history, like the Knights Templar, and stuff like Dan Brown, but historical version of the Dan Brown novel, where it actually takes place in history. Like it takes place in the past. You might like the series, but I don't know. I don't like when people. I'm not personally a fan of people telling me, "Oh, you should read this book," and then I end up not. It's really not my thing in the end. But anyway, next. So this next one. So I did a while back make a list of some of the shortest books I have in my collection here. And this particular book was on the list, and it was one of these things where, I had not finished her other book, which is quite a bit longer. And I was thinking, what? I had just bought her shortest book, or one of her. I don't know if this is her short. I don't know what else. I'll have to look up and see what else she's written in their length. But I decided to go ahead and check it and go ahead and read it, since I have this one, Silas Marner, and I recently heard. Not a review exactly of this, although after I finished the book, I did watch Claudia from Spinster's Library, her review of this after I finished it. But it's kind of a review, but more like a review of a TV show that talked about this book. I watched from a Book Olive's video on where she did a review of the Wishbone episode where they did this book. In case you never grew up watching that show, that is a show about a family and their dog, a Russell Terrier, Jack Russell Terrier, and it's set in the real world, but it's also, he narrates these classics and makes them accessible for kids, and he's usually a character, and we go to the world of the story, and he usually plays a character in the novel, and they act out some of the significant parts, kind of simplify it a little bit so kids can get into it and understand it better. And it usually relates to the real world problem that's going on. Somehow they connect those two problems. And I watched her when she did this one, Silas, their episode of Silas Marner, which it definitely makes sense that it can be done. They could do it, and there wasn't a lot. It wasn't too hard to do. But now that I've read it, the cover makes sense. Although I'm not that I ever really looked at the cover, and so does this part. Not that I ever really looked at it when I bought it. I mean, I looked at it because I love these covers, but I wasn't paying attention to the details of what's on the cover. But the cover now makes sense. Basically, this is about our title character, Silas Marner, and years ago, he got kicked out of his own village because he was accused of robbery, or he left the village he was born in, and because he was accused of robbery, his girlfriend, ditched him for his best friend, or the guy he thought was his best friend, but he's the one who kind of quote unquote, told on him. So he goes to the town of Raveloe, and he kind of hides there and develops a persona of the village miser, and there's all these stories that he has gold in his house, and it turns out he does, and one of his neighbors decides to get greedy and steal his gold, and he thinks this is the end of the world for him. He doesn't have much of anything, and he already kind of established a reputation of being a miser, so no one's really putting in their efforts to help him are kind of half-hearted. But then mysteriously, he finds this little baby girl, shows up on his doorstep, and he immediately falls in love with this little girl and forms this beautiful bond with her and decides to raise her. And unfortunately, the mother has died, so he raised the little girl. First of all, that is one of my favorite aspects. I want to read more stories about those kinds of stories, or like fantasies where it focuses heavily on a mentor-mentee relationship. Which is why I definitely one of the reasons why I want to read the Mistborn series, because they do have that kind of relationship in that first book, The Final Empire, in that trilogy. So I want to look at that and see how that is. But the relationship between the little girl, he calls her Epi, and Silas is so sweet and endearing, and I just love it. It warms my heart to see that, especially because she kind of replaces his, she heals his broken heart and replaces his upset at losing his gold, like how having his gold get stolen. And it's one of these things where it's a small town, and it's back in I don't know what year. Oh, she's only 2 years old, so I guess she is a toddler. This, I love stories about small towns and villages. I find them so interesting and fun. Just seeing the people interact and their quirks and stuff, and also there's a heavy religious undertones in this. Like, Silas is told that you should go to church, is like kind of pressured that he should go to church all the time, and I don't think he starts going to church until Epi comes into his life. Like, that's what he calls her, which I think is so cute. He actually named her after his sister. And it's just very... Actually, I might have read this one after. This one might have been after the next one. I'm going to show you guys. And it's a quick read. It's only 21 chapters, but they're all kind of short, and there's a little bit of an epilogue, our conclusion. It's a very sweet, very endearing story, but the powerful love, and it's fun. I definitely recommend it. Next, although I don't think this is I think I read this one before Silas Marner, and that is Oscar Wilde's Picture of Dorian Gray, which is a reread, and I did do a review for that one. I think I might post a link to that review on the Dropbox below. This is my second time reading this, actually. I read it once before, and again, I remember feeling like, oh, it's okay, it's kind of interesting, but it wasn't really my cup of tea. And I think that's partly because I wasn't as experienced with Victorian literature. So I was kind of not prepared for the really dense writing style, although this one is not as bad. This one's not as bad as some other, like Dickens is pretty dense. But he's also kind of quirky too, his writing. And this has such beautiful prose, by the way. I just love the prose. And of course, it has Oscar Wilde's charming signature witty humor and cleverness. And it's an interesting look at people and how they value physical appearance. And today it's not much different than it was, in the story. Like today, as I talked about in my review, there's so many different ways of making yourself look younger, appear younger than you really are in today's society. But it's so good, and when I was picturing, I kept picturing. I don't remember who played Basil, but I kept picturing. I can't remember. Sorry, the tiredness is starting to hit me. Ben Barnes, I think his name is, who plays Dorian, and Colin Firth plays Lord Henry. I was picturing them as the characters. But yeah, this was really good, and it's not that long. And I just, and it's funny. I was talking to my friend Virginia, and bless her heart, she's great and everything, but when I was telling her recommending this book to her, she's like, well, some people just don't like Old English. It's like, are you kidding me? Have you read Beowulf? That's Old English. This is not Old English. But I was caught between being like, rolling my eyes and being amused by her saying that, referring to this as Old English. I don't know why my nose is so itchy. Fingers is itchy like this. But anyway, this is really great. Very, very mysterious, very intriguing, very thought-provoking too. And then my other reread for this year was, I finally read A Tale of Two Cities. I have been meaning to reread it, but I wanted to get a different copy rather than the mass market copy. And I feel like the classics, for me personally, I am more, and granted, I still have several classics in mass market, but I kind of prefer this size over the mass market. But I do have several mass market. I'm not going to switch all my Dickens books into mass market. But some of them I will, though. This is A Tale of Two Cities. It is basically about the French Revolution from both the British perspective and the French perspective. And you have quite a few main characters that kind of get mixed up in the war and how their personal lives are affected by this war. There is a bit of a romance in this. The problem now, what I think I can agree on with Jennifer Brooks and Katie from Books and Things is that the plot and the history part is great. That is done really well and is very engaging and interesting. The problem is the characters. Dickens' characters suffer very much, and I don't mean their characters suffer and go through so much crap. I mean as in they're not as well developed in this book. Like there's a few characters like Madame Defarge, Sidney Carton, and he's the reason I read this the first time, and I even did a paper on it in my college English class. And I feel like they didn't mention this person, but I feel like the Doctor is pretty developed. And you do, with the Doctor, you kind of look at mental health issues because he kind of goes through PTSD because he was a political prisoner. My nose is driving me nuts. But Sidney Carton is like one of the most compelling characters in literature. And like I did my paper on him and how his story is a tale of redemption. And it starts the opening sentence is great. Let me read it. I love the opening sentence, and most people I think would agree that the opening sentence. The opening sentence is awesome. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the light. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven, and we were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received, for good or for evil, in superlative degree of comparison only. I love that opening line. And then the last line is really great too, but I feel like reading that would kind of spoil things. But it's such a good, it's a good, and I think I still change it to 4 stars in my on Goodreads. But this is great. All the characters are compelling, and were a lot of things that I did not realize after, or at least I didn't remember reading. Like Charles. Charles is French and Sydney is English or British, and I did not realize that Charles was I did not realize, I thought he had just joined the revolution. I did not realize he was the Marquis, the nephew of the Marquis, and he was an aristocrat. And I did not realize how involved the Defarges were and how much they wanted him dead because of that. And just how much Charles and Sydney did not like each other. I mean, they eventually become friends, which is, you gotta give Sydney some props, because the story, basically, their plot is that they both fall in love with Lucy Manette, the doctor's daughter. And like I said, Sydney forces his feelings aside and lets Charles have her, like, win her over. So, like I said, some of the biggest problem with this one is the development of the characters, like, with the exception of a few of the characters. But this was great, and one of his best written stories. Okay, the last one and most recent one that I've read so far is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This is my first Shirley Jackson. I did see The Haunting years ago, like the one that came in, I think it was 1990. And now I know, or 1999, and I know a lot of people, there are people that did not like that adaptation, which is no surprise, because usually people don't like adaptations, because they're rarely as accurate to the books. Like, sometimes people, I think, can be okay with the adaptation, even if it's not perfect, but the latest review I watched said it was terrible, and I don't remember, and this is my first time reading the book, so I couldn't really compare the two. And I know there's a TV show, like, the sticker even on here says it, that there's a TV show on Netflix, and I have been told that it's very different from the book. And some people hate it, the show, and some people love it. But this is basically this Dr. Montague is obsessed with paranormal activity, and he finds about Hill House. And he decides to contact a bunch of people that have psychic experience to spend a period of time, like a week or two, in Hill House. And they will take notes and determine if the house is actually haunted. So we have Luke, who is the inheritor of the house, the most recent person to inherit the house. You have Theodora, who she had a psychic episode once. I can't remember, like she could read someone's mind or something. and she's a bit of a free spirit, very energetic, bit of a diva. And then you have Eleanor Vance, who is this very shy, reserved woman who's been taking care of her mom her whole life. She's one of those pushover type people. And they all come to the house, and they all quickly become friends, are excited about staying here. But as the story progresses and they spend more time in the house, they have experience these little moments of spiritual visitations, doors shutting on their own all the time. They receive messages on the walls for Eleanor, and like so many, and not a lot of things happen, but there's quite a bit of creepy things and slowly, particularly with Eleanor, she slowly kind of starts to lose it and become taken over by the house. And it's very creepy. Now, I'm not one of those people who easily get scared by books, I mean, maybe if I think about it a little bit at night before I go to sleep, but I'm more scared of like a movie or a TV show because I'm not relying on my own imagination. Like, it's already given to me, so I get more scared by that. So I'd probably be more scared of the movie, The Haunting, or possibly the TV show, even if they are different from the book or very inaccurate to the book. But despite the fact that it doesn't affect me, like, it still was so good and so intriguing and so engaging. It was just a mind trip of a story. Now, I do agree with this review. I watched the Lit Cover Review, I think, or something. I think that's their channel name, something like that. And they did a review of this. And I loved the review, but it wasn't just saying, like, it was a very well thought out review, and because it did a really good analysis of the novel. Something that most of us lazy people don't want to do, because we've done it so many years in school that we don't want to do it at home. We just want to say we liked the book and talk about what we liked and didn't like about it, or we hated the book and think it was terrible. List all the things we hated about it. But I agree with them that I agree with one of them, because it's two guys, and the one guy said that he felt like the ending kind of fizzled out, or was at least very abrupt. Like, I agree, it was just very abrupt. Like, I had to, that's why I looked at the review, because it was like, okay, did that actually happen? Like, did what I think happened? And they did confirm what happened at the end. I was, like, very surprised. I didn't understand. I didn't realize, okay, did that just happen? But yeah, it's really good and just beautiful writing. Another author who has amazing writing, and I want to read We Have Always Lived in the Castle as well. And I know that one's on audiobook, so I might listen to that one instead. Like, I might listen to that one, maybe in this Christmas or maybe next year. I don't know. But I might buy it, or I might just listen to it. I don't know yet. I don't know. I'll see what happens next time I go to Books A Million or something. Or if I'm thinking about going to the roast office this Tuesday, because, like I said, I'm actually off on Tuesday, and that's one of the days it is open. So I might go there and might look for it a little bit. But anyway, this was so great. It's a fast read. I mean, it can be a little slow, and there's a lot of scenes where there are a lot of scenes where the characters are just kind of sitting around talking, so you might not like that. But one of those guys in, like I said, the Lit Cover Review, I think is their channel name, did mention that there was at least one scene in the middle of the book where there was some relevant information given, or at least some very interesting information given. So there was some point to all those scenes where the characters are just sitting around talking. But I felt so bad for Eleanor. She's so shy and awkward and doesn't have her place. And it takes a very strong person to be able to help someone like her. And you can almost argue that maybe she was depressed. I mean, I'm not an expert on that, but I'm wondering if that was the case, that maybe she was very depressed because she was not relevant or not important, and she was always helping someone else. She was never doing anything for herself. She was always doing for others, like taking care of her mom. and just Theodora was not someone like, yeah, she became a friend, but then after a while she kind of got annoyed by Eleanor. And not everybody has that kind of patience. Even I don't have that kind of patience to help someone like Eleanor and to cope with that kind of person. I think eventually I would kind of lose it too and get snippy with her, which, yeah, is not the right thing to do with a person like Eleanor. But it's, and we're not perfect. But there were times when I kind of got angry at Theodora, but I also kind of understand her being a little annoyed and not appreciating Eleanor clinging to her. Like, at one point in the story, she's like, wants to go home with her, and Theodora is like, no, that's not gonna happen. You have your own place, so that is not gonna happen. I don't, even though Eleanor keeps insisting, oh, I can take care of myself, and don't worry about me, I just need a place to live, a nice, more comfortable place to live, and there were times when her and Luke went off together, and they kind of were very rude to her, very condescending to her, and a lot of the characters, kind of talked down to her. There were times when Luke kind of showed that he pitied her, at least, and the same with Dr. Montague. And then his wife comes in, and oh my god, his wife is so annoying. And I think she was there for a comic relief. She was so annoying, and she was very condescending too, and just thinking she's so superior and knows everything and was getting everything wrong, and was looking down on the three people and saying that they don't know what they're talking about, they're amateurs and they shouldn't be here, they're going to disrupt things. And then there's her partner Arthur, who I want to punch in the face. I could not stand him. He was so arrogant, and he did that thing that I hate guys do whenever. Okay, so they are warned by the caretakers of the house, the Dudleys, that they probably should not go outside. And they've been here a while, and they've had quite a few supernatural experiences, so they're probably terrified and really do have convinced and have been led to believe that this stuff is all real. And they are just absolutely terrified, and they're gonna take it on their word that they don't want to go outside after dark. So Arthur and Miss Montague get there late, and first of all, Miss Montague gets all like annoyed because they already ate dinner, and throughout the whole story, Miss Dudley is like, I set breakfast down at this hour, and I have lunch out this hour, and I have dinner out this hour, and I clear things, and then after dark I leave right before dark, and she has a set schedule. And so Miss Montague is kind of annoyed that they don't have these, like, no, well, Miss Dudley, you haven't been here, and there was she doesn't say anything about that. She told him she would be there at a certain time. She just said, I'm gonna be there tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. And I just wanted to smack her. But anyway, with Arthur, she doesn't like to drive, so Arthur's giving her a ride there. And he's this arrogant college professor who thinks he knows everything. And, like I said, they were told that it was not a good idea to go outside after dark. So, he has to park the car and ask Luke to help him out. And Luke is like, no, we were told not to go outside after dark. I'm not stupid. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go out after dark because we've been warned not to. And I've had some experience that make me think that they might be right. And Arthur had the nerve to call Luke a coward to his face. And it's like, I hate it when guys do that to each other. Like, men have to be brave 24/7. I don't care if the ghosts are real or not. I feel like, you shouldn't shame another guy because, granted, those of you who are watching my channel that are men, tell me, why do other men have to shame each other if they admit that they're afraid? Nothing's wrong with it. And to me, I would be like, I don't think, I would admire a guy who admitted that he was a little scared. I do not like false bravery. I'm all for, facing something despite your fears. But I don't think you should just, I don't think anyone's male or female is completely fearless. And doing something does not, like, I don't think you have to be fearless. You do something brave, but that, doesn't mean you don't have any fear. It just means that you are doing it despite your fear, and you're fighting back against your fear. You're proving yourself you can do it, even if you're scared. And then later on, Luke, because Eleanor is starting to kind of lose it, there's a moment when Luke kind of saves Eleanor's life that proves he is brave. He's a lot braver than he's given credit for. So I kind of liked him. I felt bad for him that he got a bad rep, because there are times where he does show that he's not a complete douchebag, and he's definitely a better man than Arthur, in my opinion. But anyway, I think they were just thrown in there for, to make things interesting and comic relief, but they were just so annoying, but they added another. And I felt and by the end of towards the end of the book, I felt bad for Eleanor But anyway, this is a great haunted house story. I can see why people like Stephen King think it's one of the best. And he even references it in Rose Red, and there are some similarities to Rose Red. And there's even a quote where Joyce Reardon, and the Rose Red was only a miniseries, and there's the guy who wrote the Peter and the Starcatcher series, I can't remember his name, he did write for Stephen King a diary of Ellen Rimbauer, the main ghost in Rose Red. But Rose Red was a miniseries screenplay that Stephen King wrote. It was on ABC. It was a haunted house story where the house would change, and it would all around you, and the ghost would be trapped in there building the house, and it was really creepy. Talking too much. And he in there, Joyce Reardon, she's a college paranormal psychologist, and she gathers together a group of psychics to investigate Rose Red the house. And when she's giving kind of like that, talking about the house and everything, giving kind of introduction before they actually go to the physical place, and she actually quotes Shirley Jackson. Or at least she says, Shirley Jackson said, "Houses were born bad," and that's a quote from the book. That houses, I'm paraphrasing it, but that's one of the quotes she says in the book, and I don't remember where it is, because like those coverlet guys, I don't go. Unlike those coverlet guys, I do not go through the book and highlight and make sure I have quotes. I mean, I kind of did that with Picture Dorian Gray, but anyway. I also love the house. It's so cool. I would love to actually see the house. I don't know about about the haunting, how accurate it is in that sense. But the house is so cool. Like, there's, it's one of those houses. It doesn't grow on its own, but it does have this feel of, it's just very weird and maze-like, and a very eccentric house. It does its own thing almost. Not like Rose Red exactly, but it's a very weird and very intriguing house. I would love to get a visual of it. Like, I would love to watch the Netflix series or The Haunting just to see if they follow the description of the house, so I can just get like a visual of the house itself. So I think the concept of the house is really cool, despite it's being haunted. So like I said, I'm working on Bleak House right now. I haven't got very far. I'm read a little bit more of chapter 20. But I didn't finish because, like, again, I just have my 15-minute break to read at work, so, I just love these editions. Like, one of the things I love that they're so brightly colored. It shows, because a lot of classics are very dramatic. I feel like the brightly colored covers show, is a way to show how dramatic these books are. So I'm gonna read a little bit more tonight, probably after dinner or something. And then I'm also reading Dracula. I read a little bit of this. I'm not very far. Again, this one is taking me a bit of time. But I'm on chapter 6, which is part of Mina's journal. Which I love how this is told in so many different form, kind of epistolary. I'm not saying that right. Epistolary format where their diary entries and letters and journals and stuff like that. I think that's really cool because it adds some mystery and intrigue to it, and it's also personal. But it's also I don't like modern day stories that are epistolary stories, because it's my world, so I know the language and it's not as beautiful or as romantic. For me, our modern day tongue, we say words such as and especially if it's, no offense to teenagers, but the slang way teenagers talk, it's not as interesting to read it. And all honest, I think that's part of why I don't like contemporaries, because it's something I live in that kind of world. I've experienced it. This is from another time, and even though it's our world, it's still a different time, and so it's such a beautiful thing. This kind of writing is so beautiful to read. Reading someone's journal of this time period, and it's so much more. It's so beautiful to read. I did not realize that this is only I thought I could read it for Tome Topple, but this particular edition is only this is just the notes section too. I don't know if I'll read those. Well, I guess I'll look at the notes. I'll probably look at those. 365 pages. So it doesn't even count for Tome Topple, which is coming up, I'm assuming, by the end of the month. I don't know if Sam from Thoughts and Temps has done a video, but I know she talks about doing a Tome Topple in November. And we're on the last week of October, so it's right around the corner, literally. So, okay, and now that I have this up, okay, I don't know if I showed you this officially, but so I got Dracula, and then that's not something I got in that purchase. I don't remember what else I got with that purchase. What else did I get with that purchase? I don't remember because I know I got other books with that one. I wish I could remember. I'm trying to. Well, I'll come back to that one because I know I got other books with Dracula, obviously, but I would have to go looking for them. But I don't know if I ever showed you. I got this one. Oh, that might have been one I got. No, I wish I could remember when I got this one. What else I got with that, but I also, okay, these are the books I got online. A couple I got from thrift. At least 2 of the ones I got last time I ordered from, well, not last time I ordered from thrift, but this is my first English library edition, and it really is a library edition because but I would love to get more of these. But I love these covers. Unfortunately, it's an actual library book, so it's not as pretty. But it's from Hamilton Public Library, so I'm guessing this is from New York, a library in New York. But I like how this is the author picture. I love that. But I don't really know much about this. But I kind of want to jump in without knowing too much. But I'm surprised this book looks so, like, small. So, okay, so this was originally published in London. Inscribed to Thomas Carlyle. I don't know, he must have been a friend of Dickens. But yeah, and then this one as well, I got. Oh, I remember one of the books I got. Let me see if I can. I'm not gonna get it. I am so sorry. I'm not fair. I thought was it this one? I might have got this one when I got Dracula, or from the Maddening Crowd. No, I think I got this one sooner than that. I wish I could remember what other books I got with Dracula. I know I think I got another classic with Dracula, but when I bought this one, shoot, I cannot remember. Of course, I'll come across this after I finish filming. But anyway, I got this one. This is a more portable. This is not just portable, but this is the vintage edition, vintage classic editions of Dickens' A Christmas Carol, along with The Haunted Man and Chimes is in this one. And I heard, and I remember Katie from Books and Things mention some of those other short stories. Where this is one of my favorite Dickens, and it's always been kind of part of my life. Because my dad did the play, and he was the Ghost of Christmas Present. And then every year I've seen at least one of the adaptations. I mean, I haven't seen all the adaptations, but I've seen at least most of them. Like, I haven't seen the black and white one all the way through. I'm trying to think of some others that, like, I've seen the musical, the Christmas Carol musical, the one Kelsey Grammer. I've seen the Muppet Christmas Carol. I've seen both Disney ones. I saw the one with Sir Patrick Stewart as Scrooge. Oh, I have not seen the Scrooged, the Bill Murray movie, and I really have no interest in it. And of course, I've probably seen the two. There are, I think, two TV movie adaptations of it. And I think in both cases, the main character, the Scrooge character, is a female. Oh, I have not read the Afterlife of Holly Chase, which is kind of where, like, the Christmas Carol story, the whole Scrooge thing is like a project or experiment or whatever, and that the main character, Holly Chase, was a failed Scrooge, and so she must become one of the ghosts, and she has to help other Scrooges like her. Oh my god. I did not notice this before, but there's not only is there little snow and stuff and ivy and all that, or mistletoe or whatever, but there's all these little pictures of images like the ghosts and stuff. I did not realize that. I think that's obviously Scrooge, if you guys can tell. So it's even prettier. I also love that the purple pages. I've been really liking these, but I don't ever I don't buy them, the ones with, because usually you only get those in, special ones, or, if you get you might come across one in a used bookstore, but in, book boxes, but I don't want to subscribe to those because, I'll be right there! I don't subscribe to those. Okay, I have to hurry now with this real quick. Okay, so I don't know what else I got with Dracula. I'll have to show you guys later. But let me show you the last things I bought real quick. So I ended up ordering another book from Thrift Books. I'll be right there! I got this one, and Anna Karenina. I'm gonna say Anna Karenina because I hate saying it. I do not like saying Anna, because to me, even though it's spelled Anna, I just I don't know. Anna or Anna, I don't know. But I did start War and Peace a while back, but I haven't finished it yet. So I thought, oh, I should do Anna Karenina or Anna Karenina. But then, and at first when I bought my first copy of it, I liked it because it actually looked old, like an older book. But then I realized I kind of want a bigger size book that's a little fancier and nicer. So I was able to find this one on Thrift Books, because the problem with on Thrift Books is these kinds of editions, or like English Penguin Library editions, and possibly even the Cloud editions, they disappear quickly to the point where there's only one left in stock, and I don't want to continuously be buying these just so I can have all these ones that I want. So it has the French flaps as well, which I really like, and I just, I love that it's, it's flappy, and it's just really, I like and I love this too, that has this in it. And my mom talked about offering to get me like a stamp kind of thing. Okay, so, and then, I'm sorry I'm rushing this, but my mom just called me down to dinner, so. Okay, so, I also bought, so I have been meaning to reread Oliver Twist, which I read in 2018, I got it from the library, and at the time, I was kind of rushing, I feel like, when I was reading it. I was trying to make sure I had one book that I could return to the library, and we were on vacation in Florida. And then my grandma was with us, so it was there's a lot of distractions, and on top of that, halfway through the vacation, because that's where Terry lives, she doesn't live in Orlando, but she lives in Florida, she met up with us. So at the end, so it kind of like, there was a lot of distractions. I was kind of rushing it a little bit, not taking my time with it. So I decided to buy a paperback copy of it. And originally I wanted like either the Penguin English Library edition or the vintage edition, but I decided, it's not my favorite, or at least as of right now, it's not a favorite, but I did enjoy it, and I want to enjoy it more. So I bought this one, so I decided to go ahead and buy this copy of it. And I did read a little bit last night. And this is the Modern English Library edition. Oh, and I thought that was really cool. Granted, I'm not a huge fan of his trilogy, but although now it's a series, there's an introduction by Philip Pullman, the guy who wrote The Dark Materials. So I thought that was really cool. But I also usually skip those. Those introductions, I never read those because I just want to jump into the story. But yeah, I'm going to reread it, and I'm going to take my time with it and not rush and just enjoy it. And plus, I like paperbacks over hardbacks. I mean, I still have hardbacks. I'll still, like, if I really want to get the book that just came out, then yeah, I'll get the hardback. But so I'm going to give this another shot and see how I feel about it. And I think I'll still love it. It's just not, well, it won't be a favorite Dickens of mine. And then I also got another Dickens. I had a mass market paperback of this one, and that is Great Expectations. And I remember really enjoying this along with David Copperfield. And I want to reread it again as well. And first, I love this cover. It looks like a painting. I love that painting look. I think it's really pretty. And this one has an introduction by George Bernard Shaw, the guy who wrote Pygmalion, which was adapted into the play, I can't remember what the musical is called. But anyway, I want to reread this, and I like this edition. I just love this cover. So I thought it was really pretty, looking like a painting and stuff. So I'm going to reread this one as well. And then the last classic I bought was, I have been wanting to buy, I have the Barnes & Noble leather-bound edition, bind-up edition of this, along with several other of Steinbeck's short, like, novels and short stories. And I've been wanting to reread this, but it's hard for me to get into those binds-ups, like, so I want to buy this copy, this paperback copy, and it matches my copy of East of Eden. It's Mice and Men. This was another one I read in school, middle school or early high school, and I've been wanting to reread it, and it was just hard to reread that version of it in that kind of bind-up, so I decided to go ahead and get this one, and like I said, it matches my copy of East of Eden, or not East of Eden, of East of Eden, Grapes of Wrath. I don't know why I said East of Eden. Grapes of Wrath, I mean. Although it kind of matches, the coloring matches East of Eden more so than Grapes of Wrath. But I don't have the East of Eden edition of this. I only have this in the Grapes of Wrath edition of this style. So I want to reread this one. Oh, and it's a Steinbeck Centennial. So these are the Centennial editions. I did not know that. But anyway. And then last but not least, again, sorry I'm rushing it, but my mom had just called me to come down and I wanted to finish filming. I've been meaning to reread some more Neil Gaiman, but I haven't got around to it. But I saw this, and it's not technically Neil Gaiman, or it is, like, he put together these short stories about, unnatural creatures, basically like supernatural creatures. And there are some stories of his in here, selected stories by him in here as well, but mostly it's other authors. And this is one of the few times where a cover got my attention first. Well, although that, I can't really say that. It's just, I also look at the back, and I never buy something just because of the cover. But the cover did get my attention. It's really beautiful, and I love the font, and I decided, and I have been wanting to grab a non-classic. I want to buy at least one that wasn't a classic. So I saw this, and I, looked at the back and stuff, and it's, like I said, the cover is beautiful, and of course, I love fantasy, so, I thought I would get it. Okay, so that's it. I wish I could remember what other books I got with Dracula, because of course I don't just get one book. I always get at least 2 or 3 or 4. So that's my literary ramblings update. If you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below. I hope you are washing your hands and wearing your face mask and staying safe and being kind to each other. And enjoying your reading. Alright, talk to you later. Bye.